Hello and welcome back to another Millennial Minute. Today we're asking, should public companies offer employees stock? You've already heard from our guest, Aaron Deason. He's a financial advisor at Payne Capital Management. And joining him is Emil Scandal. He's an op-ed tech columnist. Welcome to you both. So Emil, you said that we should reform capitalism to lessen wealth inequality. These days we mostly hear like we should get rid of capitalism. So I'm interested more in hearing about your argument.
Yeah, so I think that we can encourage companies to provide stock ownership to employees. We can realign interests for the long term for workers. There's a lot of discussions about transferring equity ownership to workers, and that really takes the form of worker co-ops, ideas that Bernie Sanders and others have introduced based on plans like the Swedish minor plan from the 70s, based on the Mondragon co-ops in the Basque region in Spain. But there are ways that we can do this pretty easily that will work. And that's really incentivizing companies through the tax code. Unfortunately, ideas like that really don't get enough attention. There's been a bill pending in the Senate and the House to make it easier for S corps to provide ownership to their employees. And unfortunately, it has been sitting around and it hasn't been doing much. I would love to see a shift in policy discussions towards tax incentivization as opposed to a complete overhaul or a redevelopment of an economic system.
Yeah, Aaron, do you agree with Emil? Like, can we really change capitalism to help more people and be a more inclusive, system?
I do agree. I think it's a long road, but absolutely. I mean, I think it's all into putting in things in perspective for these business owners where it's really beneficial for them and their business as well as their employees, if we're being completely honest about it. But I think that doing things through the tax code and really offering equity shares to employees throughout the organization can really shine a brighter light on capitalism and move things forward. I think as a lot of these fundamental ideas are really structured and supposed to be really providing benefits for all of the workers and shareholders.
Yeah, so Emil, you put an asterisk on that. You don't believe this should be mandated, correct? You believe this should be completely optional. So it's kind of an extension of corporate social responsibility. Corporations should do it just because it's the right thing to do, not because the government is making them do it.
I think it's not really CSR. I think it's more about them doing it because it's going to create a better culture and it's going to increase worker productivity, right? So worker co-ops, they're not popular here in the US. There are a number of reasons why. There's a professor at the University of Alabama, Jim Brown, who's basically said that they're not popular because the legal complexity here in the US doesn't allow it for it to be popular. And they're not really that well known. But the thing about worker co-ops is that there's a 9 to 19% worker productivity increase. So I think there is somewhat of an argument to say that when workers are invested in the company that they're building, they're gonna produce more output.
Yeah, Aaron, that's really interesting. I think one of the problems with our society, whether you're liberal or conservative now, is that people who don't have any ownership of something, whether it's a house or a piece of the company they work for, feel like they don't really have a lot of skin in the game and don't really have a lot to lose. And their behavior fundamentally changes as consumers or citizens, et cetera.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the ownership stake. I was reading about Tesla's stock incentive programs, and before COVID, they were offering $20,000 in restricted stock that was vesting over 3 years to their employees. Some of their top engineers and people that have worked their way up through the company over the years, and obviously due to Tesla's stock performance, are now millionaires on paper. Think of how incentivized and dedicated they are to the company and to that brand to stick with it over the long term. You're talking about increased productivity, lower turnover, and you can really those talented people that you're looking for in the organization will really rise to the top, and that's a great way to keep them in the organization.
So, Emil, last question here because we're almost out of time, but why don't we hear more of these conversations coming from the left? Why do we hear a lot of, we just have to just burn down the house instead of maybe renovating it? And of course, I'm referring to capitalism here.
Yeah, I think that's a important question. I think it's because there's there truly is a perspective of capitalism on capitalism that's just not working. It's just, there's this view that, things haven't been improving, that, over the past century, workers have, have been at the whim of corporations. And I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Like, we have seen poverty rates decline tremendously, literacy rates go up. There's a quality of life that we've never seen before. So I think the fact that is that the left really believes, the far left actually really believes in the fundamental shift in the entire economic system. And that's socialism, right? But there's a difference between socialism and social democracies, right? Or economic democracies. And so those discussions don't get introduced because they're advocating for the more extreme version of employee ownership.
Well, thank you both for your time and for this very spirited and important conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Follow us at Bold TV on the social media channel of your choice. Have a great day.